There comes a time in every life when the heart is tested, when the choice stands clear before us to shrink back in hesitation or to step forward with boldness. And in that moment, the measure of a person is not found in what they claim to believe, but in what they dare to do. Courage is no passing emotion, no fleeting burst of energy. It is a steadfast resolve, a quiet and unshaken certainty that truth must be upheld, and justice must be pursued, regardless of the cost. A brave heart is not one that never feels fear, it is one that refuses to be ruled by it. Yet boldness, when untethered from wisdom, is mere recklessness. The world is not changed by thoughtless daring, but by those whose courage is matched with understanding. A warrior without discipline is no hero, and a leader without humility is no guide. The boldest actions are those tempered by wisdom, driven not by impulse but by purpose. When faced with difficulty, believe themselves too small to act, too weak to matter. But history is written by those who reject such lies. The most ordinary of souls, when resolved to stand for what is right, become the authors of change. It is not the strength of one's hands that shapes the world, but the strength of one's convictions. Let us not mistake courage for ease. The road of the brave is often lonely, often steep. The greatest battles are waged not against men, but against doubt, against despair, against the whispering fear that one voice, one act, is too small to matter. But it is precisely in those moments that courage must rise. For light shines brightest in the darkness, and the boldest steps are taken in the face of the greatest storms. What will be your choice? To live comfortably, safely, preserving yourself at all costs? Or to step forth, to dare, to act, to leave behind not just words, but a legacy of strength and honor? The world does not wait for heroes. It is shaped by those who refuse to wait. Let yours be the heart that does not waver. Let yours be the actions that do not falter. Courage is often misunderstood as the absence of fear. Many believe that the brave do not feel fear at all, that they stand unshaken in the face of peril, unaffected by the weight of uncertainty. But this is far from the truth. The bravest among us are not those who never fear, but those who, despite fear's presence, refuse to let it dictate their actions. Fear, in itself, is not the enemy. It is a natural response to danger, a whisper of caution against the unknown. But to allow fear to reign is to surrender before the battle has even begun. True courage, then, is not found in the lack of fear but in the mastery of it. Consider the soldier who steps onto the battlefield. He does not do so because he is immune to fear. His hands may tremble, his heart may pound, but he moves forward because something within him calls him to act. He is driven by duty, by love, by a cause greater than himself. Courage is not a fleeting rush of adrenaline, it is a disciplined choice, an unyielding resolve to stand firm despite the storm raging within. The same principle applies beyond the battlefield. In every corner of life, from the grandest stages to the quiet struggles of the everyday, courage is the force that separates those who merely dream from those who dare to act. The world praises acts of valor, the great and daring feats that turn men into legends. We admire the explorer who ventures into uncharted lands, the leader who stands alone against oppression, the voice that speaks truth in a crowd that prefers silence. But courage is not only found in extraordinary moments, it is tested in the smallest of choices. The child who stands up against the bully, the worker who refuses to compromise their integrity, the friend who speaks a difficult truth despite the risk of rejection, all display the same essence of courage. These moments, though unseen by the world, shape the character of an individual just as much as the grand acts that make their way into history books. To understand courage fully, one must also recognize its cost. Bravery is not without sacrifice. It often demands discomfort, struggle, and even suffering. Those who stand for what is right will face opposition. Those who step forward when others retreat will know the weight of loneliness. But it is precisely this cost that gives courage its worth. If bravery were easy, if it required no struggle, then it would not be courage at all, it would simply be convenience. True courage is forged in difficulty, strengthened in resistance, and revealed in moments when retreat would be far easier than standing firm. Courage does not always roar like a mighty lion. Sometimes, it is quiet, subtle, almost imperceptible. It is the patient endurance of one who faces chronic hardship yet refuses to surrender to despair. It is the steady hand of a teacher who guides a struggling student, believing in their potential when no one else does. It is the resolve of a parent who sacrifices their own comfort to ensure a better future for their child. These are not the stories that make headlines, but they are the ones that shape the fabric of the world. Courage, then, is not always the grand act of defiance against overwhelming odds. Sometimes, it is simply the refusal to give up, the choice to hold on when everything urges one to let go. There is a peculiar thing about courage: it is contagious. When one person dares to stand, others find the strength to do the same. A single voice, though trembling, can inspire a chorus of conviction. A single act of defiance against injustice can awaken the courage of an entire generation. It is for this reason that courage is not merely a personal virtue but a force that shapes societies. The great movements of history, the revolutions that have toppled tyrants and freed the oppressed, all began with individuals who refused to be cowed by fear. It was not always their strength that carried them through, but their belief in something greater than themselves. Courage must be guided by wisdom. Boldness without thought is recklessness. True bravery is not found in impulsive action but in measured resolve. There is a fine line between courage and folly, and to act without understanding is to invite disaster. This is why the greatest leaders, the wisest warriors, and the most steadfast pioneers are not only brave but also discerning. They do not charge blindly into danger, but neither do they shrink from it when duty calls. They weigh the cost, they understand the risks, and then, with unwavering determination, they act. The nature of true courage, then, is a balance. It is neither a reckless disregard for danger nor a timid avoidance of conflict. It is the steady, deliberate choice to do what is right, no matter the cost. It is the quiet voice that whispers, "Stand," when everything else screams, "Run." It is the heart that beats not for self-preservation, but for truth, for justice, for the things that truly matter. In the end, it is not the absence of fear that defines the brave, but the decision to rise above it. Boldness is often mistaken for bravery, yet they are not the same. A man who rushes headlong into danger without thought may appear courageous, but if his actions are without wisdom, he is not brave, he is reckless. Boldness, when unanchored by moral strength, is nothing more than a loud noise, a fleeting display of defiance that crumbles under scrutiny. True courage, on the other hand, is not merely about taking action but about taking the right action, even when it is difficult, even when the world opposes it. Strength of will must be paired with clarity of mind, otherwise, it is like a ship without a rudder, aimless and dangerous. History has shown that boldness alone is not a virtue. There have been many who have stood with unwavering confidence, who have spoken with power and acted with force, yet their deeds have brought destruction rather than progress. Tyrants throughout time have been bold. They have stood against opposition, they have dared to act where others hesitated, but their boldness was not courage, it was arrogance, pride, and cruelty. Boldness must be rooted in righteousness, for it is not enough to simply act, one must act with wisdom, justice, and integrity. A person of true courage understands that moral strength is more than just taking risks or standing alone, it is having the discipline to temper one's boldness with wisdom. Not every battle must be fought, not every moment calls for action. There are times when restraint is the greater sign of strength, when patience and endurance achieve more than brute force ever could. The wise know that speaking loudly does not always mean one is speaking truthfully. It is easy to raise one's voice, to demand attention, to impose one's will upon others, but it is far harder to act with humility, to listen when needed, and to stand firm without seeking personal glory. The world often celebrates those who act without fear, yet it does not always ask whether those actions were just. There is a difference between a person who is fearless and a person who is righteous. Fearlessness alone is not an achievement. It can be the mark of a fool just as easily as it can be the mark of a hero. Many have charged forward without hesitation, but their boldness led them into ruin because they lacked the wisdom to discern the right course. True moral strength does not lie in acting first and thinking later. It lies in the ability to weigh the consequences, to seek the path of truth even when it is difficult, and to stand for what is right even when the world demands otherwise. A person with mere boldness seeks personal victory. A person with moral strength seeks the greater good. Boldness alone can be fueled by pride, by the desire to prove oneself, by the hunger for recognition. But courage rooted in morality seeks nothing for itself. It does not demand reward, nor does it act for the sake of appearances. True bravery is often unseen, uncelebrated, and unpraised, yet it is the foundation upon which lasting change is built. Those who act with moral strength do so not because they seek admiration, but because they know that right must be done regardless of who is watching. One of the great tests of moral strength is the ability to resist the temptation of empty boldness. There is great pressure in the world to act quickly, to respond with force, to prove one's strength by dominating others. Yet the truly courageous are those who do not act for the sake of appearances, but for the sake of truth. There are moments when courage demands speaking out, but there are also moments when it demands silence, patience, and endurance. The bravest souls are not always those who shout the loudest, but those who hold firm to their convictions, even when the world dismisses them. It is easy to mistake aggression for courage. Many believe that to be bold is to overpower, to win, to assert oneself at any cost. Yet this is not the path of true bravery. The strongest warriors are not those who seek battle for its own sake, but those who choose their fights wisely, who understand that true strength is not about crushing others, but about lifting them up. The boldest actions are not always those that make the most noise. Sometimes, they are the quiet decisions to stand firm, to choose integrity over convenience, to hold on to truth even when it would be easier to compromise. Many of the greatest acts of courage in history were not displays of reckless daring, but of quiet, steady perseverance. The leader who refuses to betray his values despite the pressure of the world, the individual who chooses honesty even when deception would bring greater reward, the one who stands alone for what is right despite the cost, these are the people of true moral strength. Their courage is not loud or boastful, it is steady, unwavering, and rooted in something greater than themselves. To be truly brave, one must seek more than just boldness. One must seek wisdom, integrity, and a cause worth standing for. There will always be those who act with confidence but without conscience, who mistake force for justice and recklessness for bravery. But the world is changed not by those who act for the sake of acting, but by those who act with purpose, with wisdom, and with an unshaken resolve to do what is right. Moral strength is the foundation of true courage, and without it, boldness is nothing more than a shadow without substance. Every moment presents a choice. Some choices are small and seemingly insignificant: what words to speak, whether to offer kindness, whether to remain silent when an injustice is done. Other choices are grand, shaping the course of history, altering lives, and determining destinies. Whether large or small, every decision we make is a brushstroke on the canvas of our character. The sum of these choices defines who we are. Courage is not simply found in great, heroic moments. It is built in the thousands of unseen decisions that shape a person's soul long before they ever stand before the world. The greatest battles are not always fought with weapons or words. Often, they are waged within the heart. Every day, we are given the choice to act in fear or to act in faith, to shrink back from what is right or to step forward despite the cost. Cowardice does not announce itself in grand declarations. It creeps in through hesitation, through the quiet refusal to take responsibility, through the small compromises that weaken resolve. No one sets out to be a coward, yet many become one not through a single moment of failure, but through a pattern of choices that slowly erode their strength. The power of choice is the power to shape one's own destiny. No one is born with courage fully formed, nor is anyone doomed to a life of fear. Bravery is a habit, built choice by choice, moment by moment. It is in the decision to stand up when it would be easier to sit down, to speak when silence would be safer, to persist when quitting would bring relief. A person does not wake up one day and suddenly find themselves brave. Rather, they become brave because they have chosen, over and over again, to do the difficult thing when no one else would. There is a great temptation to believe that courage belongs only to a select few, that only those born with strength, charisma, or leadership are capable of bold action. But courage is not given, it is chosen. The smallest, quietest soul can rise in bravery if they decide, again and again, to do what is right. The mighty warrior, the fearless leader, the steadfast reformer, they were not born with courage. They built it, one choice at a time, until it became the foundation of their very being. The world is full of excuses for inaction. It is easy to believe that one's voice does not matter, that someone else will step forward, that the cost of bravery is too high. It is easier to say, tomorrow, I will be brave, than to be brave today. But courage is never found in tomorrow, it is only found in the present moment, in the willingness to make a choice now. Fear thrives on delay, on hesitation, on the belief that safety can be found in waiting. But safety is an illusion when truth is at stake. The longer one waits to do what is right, the harder it becomes to do it at all. Some choices demand immediate action, while others require endurance. There is courage in standing up in a single moment, but there is also courage in remaining steadfast over time. Some must fight a battle that lasts a lifetime, choosing again and again to hold to their convictions, to resist the forces that seek to wear them down. The power of choice is not only in grand moments of defiance, but in the quiet resilience of one who refuses to abandon what they know to be true. Every person will face a moment where they must decide who they are. There will come a time when the easy path and the right path are not the same. There will come a time when standing for truth will cost something, perhaps friendship, comfort, or even one's place in the world. And in that moment, the decision will not be made based on impulse, but on the thousands of choices that came before it. The one who has chosen courage in small things will find it natural to choose courage in great things. The one who has always chosen to avoid discomfort will find it difficult to stand when it truly matters. Choice is a gift, but it is also a burden. The ability to choose means the responsibility to choose well. No one can escape it. Even refusing to act is itself a choice to let others decide the course of events, a choice to allow injustice, a choice to let fear dictate the future. There is no neutral ground. Every moment presents a path, and whether one takes the bold step forward or shrinks back in fear determines not only the present, but the person they will become. There are no guarantees that courage will be rewarded, at least not in the way the world measures reward. Those who stand for what is right are often met with resistance, with hardship, with loss. But the reward of courage is not found in ease, it is found in the knowledge that one has lived with integrity, that one has not allowed fear to rule their life. The power of choice is not about guaranteeing success, it is about choosing to live a life that, regardless of outcome, was worth living. Every person has the power to choose. Every person has the ability to step forward, to act, to decide. It does not take wealth, status, or special skill, it only takes the willingness to say, I will not let fear rule me. The power of choice is the power to define oneself, to shape the world, and to leave a legacy of courage that others may one day follow. Responsibility is not a burden that some may choose to carry while others remain free from its grasp. It is an unavoidable truth, woven into the fabric of human existence. Every person, by virtue of their place in the world, holds responsibility, toward themselves, toward others, and toward the truth. The brave do not shy away from this reality, they embrace it, knowing that to live meaningfully is to live with the weight of duty upon one's shoulders. Those who refuse responsibility do not escape it, they merely transfer its weight to others, allowing someone else to bear the cost of their inaction. Courage and responsibility are inseparable. Bold actions mean nothing if they are not rooted in duty. Many people desire the admiration that comes with bravery, yet they do not wish to carry the burden of the choices that come with it. It is easy to celebrate the idea of standing for what is right until one is called to do so at great personal cost. A soldier who desires the honor of battle but shrinks from the discipline and sacrifice of training is no warrior at all. A leader who enjoys the power of command but refuses to bear the burden of difficult decisions is no true leader. Those who wish to be brave without being responsible deceive themselves, for there is no true valor without duty. To take responsibility is to step forward when others hesitate. It is to acknowledge that wrongs do not correct themselves, that justice is not maintained by chance, and that the world's greatest failures are often the result of too many people waiting for someone else to act. Those who turn away from responsibility tell themselves that their actions, or inactions, do not matter. They believe that the weight of change belongs to someone greater, someone more powerful, someone more capable. Yet history proves that the fate of nations, the course of justice, and the triumph of truth are shaped not by extraordinary figures alone, but by ordinary individuals who refuse to look away. The weight of responsibility is heavy, but it is far heavier when neglected. A person may attempt to cast it aside, to live only for themselves, to ignore the demands of conscience, but responsibility never vanishes. It lingers, it waits, and in time, it returns, often with a greater cost. Neglected responsibilities become burdens for others. The wrongs that one person refuses to challenge become the suffering of another. The injustices that one refuses to confront grow into greater evils. A small act of cowardice, multiplied across many, creates a world where truth is silenced and darkness prevails. Those who carry responsibility must do so not only for themselves, but for those who cannot yet bear its weight. The strong must uphold the weak, the wise must guide the lost, and the courageous must act in defense of those who have not yet found their own strength. There is no true bravery in living only for oneself. A person may achieve great things, may conquer personal fears, may build a life of comfort and success, but if they do not use their strength for the sake of others, their courage is hollow. True responsibility is never selfish, it always looks beyond the self, seeking to uplift, to protect, to serve. Many fear responsibility because it demands much. It is not easy to stand when one could sit. It is not easy to speak when silence is more convenient. It is not easy to act when one could remain passive. Responsibility asks a person to step forward when they would rather remain hidden, to endure hardship when they would rather seek ease, to carry burdens that others might lay down. But to flee from responsibility is not to avoid suffering, it is merely to invite a different kind of suffering, the suffering of regret, of a life half lived, of knowing that one was called to something greater but refused to answer. The weight of responsibility is not carried alone. Many fear stepping forward because they believe themselves too weak, too insignificant, too unprepared. But courage is not found in isolation. Those who take up responsibility often find that others rise to stand beside them. A single act of bravery has the power to awaken courage in others. One person who refuses to ignore an injustice gives strength to another who once believed they were powerless. A leader who takes responsibility not only bears the burden themselves, but teaches others how to carry their own. The weight of responsibility is great, but when shouldered together, it is no longer unbearable. There is no promise that responsibility will always lead to success. Many who take up great causes, who choose to act when others do not, will not see the results of their efforts in their lifetime. There are those who have fought battles that others will finish, who have planted seeds of change that others will reap. But responsibility is not about personal reward, it is about doing what must be done, whether or not one lives to see the outcome. A person who acts only when they are certain of success is not truly brave, they are merely calculating. True responsibility means stepping forward even when the path is uncertain, even when the outcome is unknown, simply because it is the right thing to do. The weight of responsibility is not a curse, it is a gift. To be given responsibility is to be given the opportunity to shape the world, to stand for something, to live with purpose. It is the brave who take this weight upon themselves, who do not wait for others to act, who refuse to turn away when duty calls. Though the burden may be great, though the path may be difficult, they know that the cost of avoiding responsibility is far greater. For in the end, a life without responsibility is not freedom, it is emptiness.